I dare you to go outside, go to any anime convention and count how many Umamusume cosplayers there are. I guarantee you there are at least 5 of them. So within 1 year, Umamusume has become the most popular gacha game since Genshin Impact. But it actually has good gameplay and the fans are actually alright. So now, why? Why is the horse racing all of a sudden this popular? There's actually 3 reasons, but before that I just want to say 2 things. First, obviously subscribe since I'm gonna do more epidemic slop in the future. Second, I will be experimenting with a new model that I made in Vroid in future videos, but I'll improve on the model once I actually get it designed and rigged. But anyways, firstly, like I said earlier, Umamusume's gameplay is great. You don't need an open world to have a good game. I mean, just look at my favorite games. Hotline Miami, Need for Speed Pro Street, Need for Speed Underground, and of course, Umamusume. Honestly, level select games feel more like condensed fun than open world games altogether, though let me know what you think in the comments. Umamusume's gameplay gets real deep. Of course, if you just want to have fun training anime horse girls and spending time with them like the parasocial chud that you are, then fine, do it. I also have fun doing that. But if you go deep into the gameplay, you will quickly find out that there's levels to this shit that even I don't know how to dumb down and explain. You also have to manage your turns to balance training your Uma and resting, and not only that, you also have to balance exactly what you're training your Uma for. Then, you have to build your support card deck to optimize which abilities you're gonna get and center your training around that specific deck. Unless of course you're just running in Unity Cup, in which case just spam Harukita Iko and wit cards and you're all good. Just so you know how deep Umamusume's gameplay is, there's like a billion guides on Umamusume, along with one from the Uma, the myth, the legend, Sakura Bakshino. We'll get back to her real soon. This neatly ties into the second reason why Umamusume is popular. There's just a shitload of Umamusume content, not just fan-made ones either. We'll get to that in a bit. Since Umamusume is based on real-life Japanese horse racing, that gives writers the perfect excuse to make shonen anime level stories with absolute gems like Cinderella Grey, the main Pretty Derby anime, Star Blossom, Road to the Top, and Beginning of a New Era. Minecraft movie fans versus Umamusume fans. Who can destroy a cinema first? But of course, there's just so much fan-made content on Umamusume, which we'll get to in a bit. But I'd like to personally shout out Umakind, which is this fan comic where Jungle Pocket gets cybernetically enhanced by Agnes Tachyon in order to surpass the limits of Umakind.
Say that again?
It's on like chapter 3 at the moment. I'd suggest that you read it. It's a banger. And they even have My Wife Manhattan Cafe in this comic. So please read it. Speaking of My Wife Manhattan Cafe, that's the third reason why Umamusume is so popular. Because of my glorious, beautiful, majestic, cute, and adorable wife Manhattan Cafe. Aside from that, there's a horse for everyone. That kind of ties in with my previous point, that being that there's just so much Umamusume content that you can practically live off of the franchise and call yourself a weeb. This phenomenon is widely known as LARPing, but there's just so much Umas in the game with their own stories, personalities, and quirks that you could just get attached to, and I think you already know who my personal favorite is. Manhattan Cafe is the best Uma, you simply cannot change that. But the question must be asked, how did we get here? So Cygames, barring Umamusume, they are and were known for games like Idolmaster, Grand Blue Fantasy, Preconnect Redive, and Shadowverse. Now, Idolmaster being a Cygames property is stretching it since it's a Bandai Namco property, but they also worked on a few games. And side note, apparently Idolmaster has its own K-drama, so I'll look into that in the near future. For us, the people who don't play Idolmaster and instead know it via Orange Maru Dojins, that one Jonas Brothers mashup, or the Mio Honda conspiracy posts, Idolmaster is pretty much the framework for Umamusume. A lot of games revolve around you meeting a character, setting up their schedule, being their manager, and all that fun stuff. Look, I won't pretend that I have touched any Idolmaster content outside of memes and doujins. I'll get into it soon enough. I just need to find a way to get a hold of the Idolmaster games. But looking at it from a surface level, you can see a lot of Idolmaster in Umamusume, as I have said before. The story behind Umamusume is that someone at Cygames, let's say a producer, had a long night of drinking and missed the train home. After waking up on the sidewalk, realizing that he was gonna be late for work and therefore might be drawn, quartered, and beheaded by his boss at best. So he ran to work, and on the way there, he passed by an idol billboard or something and then remembered something about Idolmaster. Let's say that he was working on Idolmaster or something like that. Then he passed by a horse, which for some reason was just hanging out there. Then he got to his office, was around 30 seconds late, and was drawn, quartered, and beheaded by his boss. But the gist is that Cygames combined the once dying sport of horse racing, which used to be extremely popular in Japan back in the day, with idols, which is something that's popular in Japan up until now. It was a crazy idea, but god damn it, they will make it work. They announced it in a panel and then came up with some concept art for the Umas. Initially, Umamusume was supposed to be released in 2018, but got pushed to 2021 to polish the game a little bit more, which I feel worked in their favor because it was still deep in the pandemic era. Of course, they ran a lot of promotion before Umamusume's official release, especially with Goldship, who you can consider as one of the earliest VTubers ever. Then of course, they released it globally on June 26, 2025, and the rest is history. February 6, 2026. Hiroshima. A man wakes up, scratches his ass, and opens Twitter. He scrolls for a bit and sees a post of the Uma, Sakura Bakushin-o, getting her armpits licked by Chiyono. He looks outside the window and sees a giant mushroom cloud.
Ah, shit. Here we go again.
2/6 will be one of those dates remembered in infamy along with 9/11, 7/7, and 7/11. The February 6 Bakushin incident triggered a war in the Umamusume fanbase, a war that will go on to be remembered as the Great Umamusume Goon War. There are two sides to this war. The purists, who wanted absolutely zero Gooner content on Umamusume, and the blue archivist-backed, belligerent group of Gooners. You see, the purists believed what they did because Cygames has a rule on fan content. After Saiyan Sky's owner received Guro fan art of said horse, they banned all NSFW art of Umas, or so it seemed. Alongside that, the purists believed that all Umas are daughters, including the ones that actively tried to fuck you. On the other hand, the Gooners were basically an unstoppable force on the internet landscape because of one simple rule. Rule 34. It was practically a war of an unstoppable force versus an immovable object, but the reason I state that they were backed by blue archivists was because they had a vested interest in Umamusume. Reason being,
トレーナーさん、言い訳
yes, my wife Manhattan Cafe makes a return yet again. The Ewok meme was actually originally a blue archive meme, but somehow made it to Umamusume. And honestly, why was it Manhattan Cafe of all Umas?
Yo, what's good? It's Editing Nemo here. So apparently, Manhattan Cafe and Shiroko have the same voice actress, Yui Ogura. So yeah.
But nonetheless, the Goon Wars carried on. Internet arguments were had, people were doxxed, and unfortunately, people got jobs. Naturally, because Umamusume is based on horses,
Peter, the horse is here.
fans of Umamusume would seek out videos related to horses. Then the algorithm sees this, then recommends you more horses, not just Umas, straight up horses. Now, horses have been one of the most memed on animals right next to cats and dogs and maybe even monkeys. So when Umamusume blew up, you can imagine the shock and horror of an average horse owner on Instagram getting flooded with comment gifs of some cartoon girl with weird ears doing weird shit. Of course, Instagram being Instagram started cyberbullying Umamusume fans. Edgy 14-year-old anime, I fucking hate you. I hope 2 keys with you gain Eager's anime bitch. These days, everyone loves horses more than Vosh, a white girl, and Mr. Hands combined.
You can write this down. I want to fuck a horse.
I mean, Umamusume's agenda was a massive success. More young folks are getting into horse racing for the better, for the worse.
I'll give you $10.
And definitely the worst, and are even raising their own race horses, some even being named after Umas like Happy Meek, Bitter Glass, and Little Cocon. And then there's Skibbity Riz.
Fun fact, Bitter Glass in real life is actually a grandchild of Air Groove.
Alongside that, real-life horse racing events are holding some Umamusume-themed events where they get cosplayers to run in the actual field itself, like this one in Chile. So imagine being some 55-year-old dinosaur who is addicted to horse racing and maybe even witnessing the real Oguri Cap in action. Then all of a sudden, a bunch of sweaty nerds just show up at your local racetrack. And also, why is Oguri Cap alive and at my local KFC? Then also, we all know that Cygames has been absolutely invading the horse racing space. I mean, they sponsored the Grand Prix de Paris and German Derby, and then also a bunch of football teams as well. But going back to the topic of Umamusume fans gooning to horses, the real Umamusume epidemic is the hordes of gooner accounts that comment under every single Umamusume related post. First, it was the Superior Agnes gooner, then there's a Superior Daiwa gooner, then I know that one of you is a Haru gooner. However, I, Nemo Kimono, am the one cafe gooner above all. I challenge you, the Superior Agnes Gooner, to JJS Best of 3, bitch! Sun Tzu once said, "When games blow, LARPers follow." But of course, tying this back into Umamusume, people naturally LARP the game as it blew up. What do I mean by this? Ask anyone in the Umamusume community who their favorite Uma is. If it's any one of these Umas, then they are LARPing. Now, that leaves us with 2 remaining questions. What makes a LARPer, and is LARPing really a bad thing? To answer the first question, it's basically just someone claiming to know more than they actually do and acting like a major dick about it. So let's say, I don't know, someone talks some serious shit about Genshin Impact without knowing a single detail about that game, then that, my friend, is LARPing. Now, for the second question, of course, LARPing isn't necessarily a bad thing. If you just put on a gold ship profile picture every once in a while, then honestly, you need to get a life. But if you're out here talking some major bullshit about the game like all Umas are daughters, then honestly, yeah, you need to get a life. The real problem isn't that they're new to the fandom or what have you. It's that they're too lazy to put in the bare minimum of getting to know the source material, even when said source material is free and runs on a potato strapped to a bunch of jumper cables, then claiming that they know so much about the source material. I'll be real with you here. I may have LARPed once or twice in my life, so I'm not gonna be that harsh on the LARPers. Just kidding, if you actually like Agnes Tachyon over my beloved Manhattan Cafe, then I think you deserve to die.
Spit hot flames, bitch, just like a dragon.
With all that being said, we're in a golden age of Umamusume, whether it's for the better or for the worse. I would also go as far as to argue that this is basically the gacha game equivalent of Pokemon Go, considering how big Umamusume is. Again, go to any anime convention and try to count how many Umamusume cosplayers you'll find in there. Though, much like Pokemon Go, I think that the wave will eventually die down and so will the player base. There can only be so many stories told, so many racehorses to turn into waifus, and we can only hope that Cygames accepts the eventual death of Umamusume with grace. Otherwise, we could risk the enshittification of that game, a lot like what's been happening with Blue Archive lately. But still, when that day comes, when we uninstall Umamusume for the last time, I think that us, the players of that game, sure as shit will have those memories of that one time everyone was talking about Bakshin's armpits or dancing to Umamusume songs. If there's one thing that's certain though, it's that Umamusume, Pretty Derby, has secured its spot in weeb history, much like Haruhi Suzumiya or Lucky Star has. Ladies and gentlemen, glory to Cygames.
Dude, shut the fuck up. Nobody cares.
Childish Gambino on your profit like the NASDAQ. Move white girls like it's coke up my ass crack. Move black girls, cause man, fuck it, I'll do either. I love pussy, I love bitches, dude. I should be running Peter in Adidas with some short shorts. B-O-O all over me. My green is where it's supposed to be. Your green is in my grocery. This Asian dude, I stole his girl and now he got